The dream of every writer is to write a masterpiece that would not only sell, but change the world. Every story I have ever written, this dream has been in my head and in my ambition. But what happens when this dream is achieved, but only to change the world for the worst? What if that masterpiece led to the deaths of thousands upon thousands of people? This is the story of Heinrich Kramer, Inquisitor. This is the story of the Maleus Malificarum, the hammer of the witches. Hello, you sinners and saints. Welcome back to The Raging Atheist. As always, I'm your boy Nakasuchi, and this is the story of the witch hunts. I have often described religion as dangerous, but I am interested in the next step of humanity. The human race coming together, ending divisions, becoming one world. Coexistence in a secular society is one of the things I am most interested in. But in order to coexist with theists, many things need to happen. One of those things is not only recognizing the differences we share in modern society, but all of the wrongs committed in the past. For too long, these wrongs have been ignored. Most Christians have no idea the atrocities committed by their religion. And when you bring it up, they don't believe you. This is such a story. And it's a story about a writer that changed the world for the worse. This is a story about the witch's hammer. This is a story about the Maleus Malificarum. The year is 1484. The place is Ravensburg, Germany. A series of hailstorms leaves the town's crops massacred, and the town itself is now facing a food shortage. The people begin to whisper, "It was Satan. It must be the devil's handmaids that brought the storms. It must be witches that are starving us." Local officials are under great pressure to do something about the damage to their crops, to face the devil, so to speak. So they seek outside help. And they are sent a man that would change the face of the world. Inquisitor Heinrich Kramer arrives in Ravensburg with one intent and one intent only, and that is to find and kill witches. Eight women are arrested immediately, and Heinrich Kramer goes to work. He tortures them for months, putting them through unbearable torments. And it takes months before two of the women break and confess to using sorcery to damage the town's crops. Inquisitor Heinrich Kramer watched as all of the accused women were burned to death. He heard their screams, and those screams were a lullaby to his heart. Thankfully, and this is the only good news you will get from this video, unfortunately, it would be his last successful witch trial, the last one he would ever personally oversee. You must understand, this was before the mass witch hysteria that would overtake most of Europe. That hysteria is largely contributed to Kramer's book, the Maleus Malificarum, the Hammer of Witches. Kramer would lose the next several trials he oversaw. The townsfolk always came in support of the accused. Kramer became dejected. He retired to his home. He began to write his master work. And Kramer did not just retire, he retreated. He became obsessed with showing the world not only that witches were a real thing, but how to get their confessions out of them. He wrote obsessively, knowing all the while that he alone could not accomplish the task he has set out to accomplish. His name alone does not have enough weight within his beloved Catholic Church. It is highly contested that his co-author was a co-author at all, as it does not fit with what is known of the man's character or beliefs. And it is believed that Kramer was willing to do anything to give credence to his master work, including forging the names of people whose thoughts had weight and merit. But the co-author, Jacob Springer, was the leader of the Dominican monks and very popular in Germany. His name, accredited to the Maleus Malificarum, gave the book weight and legitimacy. By the end of 1486, Kramer has completed The Witch's Hammer. It has 3 parts. Part 1. A philosophical argument proving the existence of witches. Part 2. A guide for clergy on how to recognize witchcraft. Part 3. A legal manual for the accusation, trial, and death of a witch. He could not have known, even as he went about the next steps of giving his manuscript legitimacy, just how impactful his book would be. Had he known, had he lived long enough to see all of the people murdered, he would have felt absolute nirvana, like his purpose had been fulfilled. If I could ever believe in a hell, and I don't, it would be a place fitting of Heinrich Kramer. Kramer includes a new, highly controversial papal bull at the very beginning of his book. In this papal bull, it recognizes the existence of witches from the Pope, the High Vicar himself. Kramer makes it appear that the papal bull is for his book, even though it was issued 3 years before. One final thing is needed to lend the book the legitimacy it needs: an approbation, an endorsement by leading church leaders. Kramer is granted an audience, but here is where history isn't clear. Some believe that Springer was a true co-author and went with Kramer to this meeting, and Springer's authority would have gained the support needed to get the signatures that was in the book. Most think that Kramer forged most of the signatures, that he went to the meeting alone, was widely rejected, and only got a couple of the signatures that was in his book, that he forged the rest. And there is credence for these thoughts, as only a couple people actually acknowledged that they gave those signatures, and many people said that they never did. But we will honestly never know the truth of this, and nor does it matter. The book is published. History is set. Printed in Spires, Germany, the Maleus Malificarum might very well have fallen into obscurity. But just a few years prior, an invention had changed the face of the world. The Gutenberg press, invented in 1454, allowed authors to mass produce their works and push them all across Europe. The hammer sells over 30,000 copies, and make no mistake, for its time, this is some Harry Potter shit. It hits Europe at the dawn of the 16th century, a volatile era of clashing nations and epic wars. A time when the Catholic Church was facing internal strife, and the Protestant Reformation was brewing. Before the hammer, there had been isolated accounts of witchcraft going back to the Dark Ages. Europe's first widespread witch craze would erupt as far back as the 1300s, more than a century before the hammer. But before Kramer's book, witchcraft was widely considered to be pagan sorcery, and was used in the destruction of pagan cultures. Witches were heathens, not Satanists. They were us, my community, and they were burned for it. When Kramer writes his book, it is a very wide, hotly debated topic for its time. Is witchcraft heathen sorcery, or is it satanic practice? The hammer would provide an answer to a question that has no rational answer.
We have found the witch, may we burn her? Who do you know she is a witch? She looks like one.
The Maleus Malificarum claims that Satan makes humans his accomplices, and women, being full of lust, are easy for the devil to seduce. The hammer claims that carnal lust is deep inside women, and women alone, and this lust will drive some of them to have literal sex with demons. The hammer states that almost all of the devil's accomplices are women. And this was an imminent sign of the apocalypse, and the world was about to end. The book is filled with sex and paints all women as sexual deviants. It is about demonizing the female gender, and it leads to the deaths of over 60,000 people.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Trust me, for its time, that is no small number. Can you imagine it? Christian law begins to rule the modern age. Can you see, if they are allowed to rule, how it can be so much worse here, now? Could I be part of a public burning? And would I be the one being burned alive? What's up, guys? If you like my video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Share me on your social media. Comment in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button. Watch what's next. Watch what YouTube recommends for you. Tell all your friends how crazy Nakasuchi is. I'll see you soon.